Hello, everyone. This is Sherry, the Realtor, and today we're going to sit down with Bill Gross, who is actually my mentor, and he's a seasoned probate real estate agent out of California, and he's going to talk with us about building a real estate business around the probate niche. So that's one of the things that people talk about, the riches are in the niches, and you really just want to be talking to a particular niche. And he's done a fantastic job of carving out the probate niche. And so we're going to get into that with Bill today. So thank you and welcome, Bill.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Great to be here.
Yeah, my pleasure to have you here. So, why don't you start with telling us just a little bit about your background and then how you decided to get into the probate part of real estate?
Sure. I've been in real estate since 1986. Real estate is a very broad industry, a lot of different ways you can approach it. I've been in sales, management, ownership. And about 5 years ago, I found myself in management for a company I just didn't appreciate. I felt kind of locked into going back to working for the man. I got into real estate to be an
Mhm.
entrepreneur, and I think my generation just saw promotions and management as a up ladder, but really in real estate it's not. Really the individual entrepreneur has a lot more control and opportunity for wealth and income and serving customers and doing what they want to do. So I relaunched myself. I quit the job I had. I was making a lot of money. My wife said, "Are you crazy?" I said, "I just can't do this anymore." And I prayed and planned a lot. And I've known probate to be a niche a lot of people get involved with, but don't really know what they're doing. And
Mhm.
I took a certification class with Probate Mastery, learned a lot about it. I took a couple days for the class and then a couple days to research. And that went into about a 2 week period where I really wrote my business plan and launched a business 5.5 years ago where I really focus on helping families and attorneys take real estate through the probate process, which is very difficult, very cumbersome. But I've learned a lot of the details and tricks and vendors to help us through the process. It's been a great business, and it's just been just a real incredible blessing in my life at this stage of my career to have a business that I make really good money at, I build wealth with, as well as enjoy.
Absolutely. Well, and you had to take an interesting pivot as well when COVID hit. And
Right?
why don't you talk us through what you had to do there?
Yeah. So when I started the business 5.5 years ago, the way I developed business was going to court every day. I lived near the largest probate court in America in LA County, and I'm about half hour away. And I put a suit and tie on and went there every day. I was there at 7:45. Court opened at 8:30. But I would meet people before, network, and then sit in court, learn, and then find people who needed help. Well, that stopped with COVID, and I had a whole
Mhm.
pipeline of business, and it all kind of fell apart. So I had to reorient my business. So I immediately, thought about it again, spent about a week putting together a plan, and moved to all my business development being online, primarily through video. Initially, I launched in Facebook and to get the results I wanted, so I ended up moving into YouTube and create a channel. And today
Mhm.
I have 3,700 subscribers. I have, over 24 hours, 24/7. I have people watching my
Yeah.
videos nonstop, which is great,
Mhm.
and meet people around the country. I've built a business with 50 realtors across the country and closing, transactions. And so again, all that was by at the time what was difficult, kind of looking at what's the opportunity and relaunching and committing to it.
Mhm. Absolutely. So, what was it about probate that you thought, this is the niche I want to carve out? What intrigued you about that to want to focus on that?
I think one of the things I've learned is people mistakenly look for the easy path,
Hmm.
and the easy path has a lot of competition. The harder path, the wall that keeps you from getting over to progress, also goes back to competition. So I looked at probate and said, most real estate agents don't know what they're doing in this area, and it really requires work. It requires, I just bought the updated version of the California Probate Code. I bought the
Okay.
book. It's $40. It's not cheap.
Hmm.
I'm reading the parts related to real estate. So it requires work and effort, and most people don't. Most people will focus on attracting business, but they won't spend the time on being the right service provider to their customers. So
Hmm.
I learned it was something I could really work at and learn and master and went after it, and it's been great.
That's really interesting that you mentioned that you took the hard path because
Mhm.
certainly people don't want to work hard. And you're probably having more success because you did take that harder path. Because I know I've mentioned to people like my eyes just kind of glaze over with probate, but I'm getting to understand it more better now with talking to you and other people. And that was really smart of you to pick out that niche, because I'm sure there's a lot of agents around you.
Well, yeah, and there's a lot in the probate space that take one class and say they're a probate expert,
Yeah.
but there's very few that can help an attorney, correct their petition and get it approved when it was declined by the court and tell them what the mistake was and how to fix it. And so that's where I've really created a special niche where now probate itself has a lot of other niches. You can work with seniors, you can work with transitional housing, you can work with families more. I really focus on working with attorneys that handle large estates. That's become my micro niche within the niche.
Okay. That's interesting. You mentioned that you help the attorneys word, I don't know the language that you use, but whatever they're putting forth to the court. That's really interesting. You've been able to help them. So tell me a little bit about that.
Well, so I used to go to court every day and I would watch. And as a result of that, I'd seen more activity than any judge, certain types of activities. I'd seen more than any attorney had. So there were times when judges would approve exceptions and an attorney would say, well, we can't do this. And I said, well, actually, I saw Judge Small approve that in Department 11, but here's what they had to do to get it approved. And I realized it was really valuable when you can help attorneys help their customers, you become kind of like a super attorney. So I'm not an attorney, but I did pay attention. I put the work in. So to this day, I really track I specialize in court confirmed sales in probate, which is a subset of the whole of probate. But I literally track every one in LA County I have for the last 5 years. So I can tell you who the attorneys were, the properties. Over half of the hearings are continued, not approved, why they're not approved, why they do get approved and changed. So I have insider data that I offer to my attorney clients to help them get things through the process.
Okay. Let's take a step back. I think a lot of people just don't even really understand what probate is. There's a lot of talk around, oh, do this with your estate so you can avoid probate. And that isn't necessarily always true either. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what is probate?
Sure. So probate it varies by state. I'm in California, which is like everything most litigious state in the country, a very detailed court process. But every state has it to some degree. If you die without a plan for your estate, the property that you own, both real property, houses and such, or personal property, money, cash, stocks, bonds, gold, collectibles, if you don't have a plan, the state has a plan for you. And in California, it looks a lot like going to the Department of Motor Vehicles. A lot of waiting in line, very bad service, rude people. So I do try to help families avoid probate by putting together an estate plan. I think every realtor should be involved in that discussion with the customers and say, hey, we're buying this house, you own this house. Have we planned for the possibility that you pass or that you become incapacitated? What happens to your property? Who has the authority to get insurance, pay taxes, make healthcare decisions, access your bank accounts? And sometimes people try their own little solutions that cause more problems because they end up paying a lot more in taxes or legal fees than they might have with a simple plan. So it's very complicated, a lot of scenarios. But again, that's what I've enjoyed about it. The more complicated it is, the more opportunity there is for learning and growing and helping customers.
And imagine there really isn't the same thing over and over again. There's always just these little idiosyncrasies, which makes it interesting because now you got a new little thing to factor in.
Yes.
Well, let's say that I'm an agent and I'm wanting to get into probate and think this would be really a cool thing to do. What would you recommend an agent do to kind of move towards that business?
Well, I actually have a whole YouTube channel on it. I'm at Bill Gross Probate. I would say that, I always tell people first, rather than pick the niche, make sure your foundation's in place. So as you and I talked about, make sure your database, you have all your clients in one place so you can communicate with them effectively about anything, including probate. Do you have an email campaign put together? Do you have your social media put together? And the second thing is you want to learn about probate or avoiding probate and share what you learn with your current clients first. And so I really encourage people to go to different vendors that will help educate you. My YouTube channel is one. Trustandwill.com is another place. I have a whole list of my YouTube channel, different resources. But learn something about the probate and then tell your customers. Our job as real estate agents, I believe, increasingly is going to become educator clients. If it's all about clicks and leads, if Amazon could sell houses, they would. They can't. Mm-hmm. Why? Because customers need good information. We as realtors should always be looking to upgrade our skills and upgrade our information to our customers. So the first thing I would do is database. Second, I would do is start learning about the probate system and specifically your state. I would search probate, Colorado, or probate Arizona, or probate California, or Minnesota, to learn the specifics. And there's attorneys and there's other people who have good YouTube and other information online to learn about that. So that's what I would do.
Okay. And is there a specific, I'm not sure what I'm trying to ask you, everybody's always like, well, how do I go actually create that lead and that person needs the probate agent?
Well, and again, this is one of the areas, as realtors, I think we're constantly marketed shiny pennies, and we get very distracted. And you only have to spend $100 a month on this shiny penny, and the marketing tells you, and you get 3 listings a month. Well, if only that was the case.
Right.
The reality is, and I'm just going to push back a little bit on what your question was, always start with your foundation. Start with people who already know, like, and trust you. Because you're going to be more effective with them. When I started in this business, 5.5 years ago, I started calling my database. I would say, hey, it's Bill Gross. I would talk to you a little while. Well, I've really added a lot of services related to probate and avoiding probate to my system. And as a result of those calls, I got through the D's, and a good client said to me, hey, she doesn't need a probate, but her husband passed already. But this client has a question regarding title and where the property lies. And, will you help her? And I said, yeah. And I went and met with her, and long story short, sold her 5-unit apartment building. Okay. And then when I delivered the proceeds check, she started crying and said to me, can you sell my house? So that came from calling my database, because I do believe our friends and family have other friends and family who somebody passed needs help. And your first probate leads are really there. Okay. Before we buy data and call, cold call or cold mail, I would 100% urge you to start with adding that content to your current database. If you don't have one, get one organized and start communicating with the people that you know, like, and trust. And only then start looking to add out. And then once you've done that effectively, start looking to strangers. But I do think your social media is the most effective way to do that today, because your friends and family have friends and family who know them through Facebook or YouTube. And if they watch your YouTube, their friends will as well. So I do think social media gives a great opportunity to expand your business that way.
Absolutely. So it's interesting what you've seen this be true, that Facebook is more right now, but YouTube, people can watch it 24/7. And so what advice would you have for somebody that's going to create that YouTube channel?
Well, there's a lot of ways to build your business. I think you have to be authentic to who you are. And remember what the goal is. The goal is not views or subscribers. The goal is to educate your prospective clients so they want to do business with you. Or if you educate them, they'll want to do business with you. So I really try to focus on either interviewing people that will be of interest to my customers, or talking about content that would be valuable to them. And there's a lot to talk about. There's a lot of different things. And if you as an agent just learn one thing a day and then recorded that and posted that to your channel, you'd have video content every day. And all you do is learn something for 15 to 30 minutes and just summarize on a video for a minute or 2 or 3.
And that would be good. Yeah, that constant video is great. And then people can see you and they can consume more, and they're like, wow, you know what you're talking about. And so then I think that is important with probate, because people just don't know what it is. And, really, I, as an agent who isn't doing probate, I would rather refer that business to somebody who is focused there, because I know that it's a different animal, and versus just regular residential kind of things, because of all the court and that kind of stuff that plays into it.
I do think it requires, some expertise. I would talk to an agent who knows what they're doing, and hopefully get them to help you if necessary. And
Mhm.
I get a lot of phone calls and from realtors around the country, and oftentimes I can walk them through what to do. It's not very difficult.
Mhm.
Sometimes I have to help them, and we'll split a deal or refer a deal to somebody who can help them.
Mhm. Yeah, which is good. Um, so what would be some of the pitfalls that you see for agents that they come out and do things that you're like, oh my gosh, I wish they wouldn't do that? What are some don'ts of becoming a probate real estate agent?
Well, number number one, in California, we have very detailed probate addendums to our
Mhm.
contracts, and I see agents don't even read those. In other states, where they aren't as litigious as we are, they don't have those forms, but I think at the same time they don't really know what they're doing. So I would say know the real estate law in your state as it
Mhm.
relates to probate, and you might need to ask your broker, "Hey, I have a probate listing coming up. What kind of disclosure, or what kind of addendum, or what kind of verbiage I need to do to protect my customers so we don't get in trouble?" And so I think always doing that before you get the deal is important. Sometimes
Mhm.
we're so excited just to take a listing, we don't know what we're
Yeah.
doing. In California, you cannot list a probate for more than 90 days. If you list
Oh.
a probate listing for, let's say, the most common is 6 months, your listing contract's invalid.
Hmm.
So you have to really know the rules, and I would urge somebody to talk to your broker and find out what the rules are. Try to put off the actual listing contract. Learn from the customer what they have, what they need, what the problems are, but make sure you understand the contracts and your job really well before you get into trouble.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that because I'm thinking of so like I go over to Judy's house and she wants to sell her house and she's going
Right.
through probate, but she can't do it for another 6 months. But you want to make sure you've locked in that business for when she's
Right.
ready. Can you put that in withheld? I don't know if you guys have withheld in California, but
We
how
do.
do you make sure you get that business?
Legally, you can't do anything until they're authorized by the court.
Okay.
So I think the thing is how how do you earn the business from your customer is just so valuable they wouldn't dream of working with somebody else.
Hmm.
That's my goal.
Okay. Now, what about if you've got a database, basically like new agent, they have their Christmas list of friends and family, and that's where they're starting from. And so these people don't necessarily care about probate in their life yet. Maybe they don't really know what it is. And so, how do you help build either like adding to that database the right kind of people or helping them see the value? What kind of tips do you have on that?
Well, again, I would push back on your assumption. Everybody should have a plan in case they're
It's true.
incapacitated or pass. I
Hmm.
was in court one day, and this man was crying on my shoulder. He was Japanese. His son moved here, was 25 years old, and was hurt in an automobile accident and was in a coma.
Hmm.
Because he was in a coma, nobody had authority. He was an adult. Nobody had authority to access his bank account, give health directives.
Wow.
It wasn't so simple. They didn't have a birth certificate. So the court, the hospital's not going to read a Japanese birth certificate and give the parent authority. So I think that there's certain circumstances. If you're going to buy a house or own a house, if you have kids, and
Hmm.
for sure, these topics are important. I think they're often not dealt with, and we find so many celebrities who pass without
Yes.
these thoughts. Right? Michael Jackson, famously, Prince,
Yes.
Aretha Franklin. Recently, Jay Leno. It's hard to believe, but here's a guy who must have had every attorney in the world in his career. Right? Made a fortune, has a
Hmm.
huge mansion, collection of cars. To this day, has an active career. And unfortunately, his wife is incapacitated, and they never really put the trouble together to give him the power over her life should she not have the
Mm.
capacity. And so he's going to court, and the state of California is acting as his wife's conservator. How embarrassing, but more importantly, how horrifying to go through that.
Right. Right. People just think, it's one of those la la la. It's not really going to happen if I just ignore it. But I know how quickly life can change because, gosh, how many? 8 years ago now, was it? My son was 7. Um, my husband all of a sudden, went from chiropractic appointment to the being in incredible pain to a couple of days later, he's having emergency overnight surgery, cut him open, and won't tell all the long gory details of that. But that changed our life, just boom. And he almost died even. And that could have been a whole different ballgame. So we just don't know.
And again, to push back on your assumption, you have your database and your Christmas card list people that you don't think care about this, but it turns out, one of them either is or has a child who works at some wealth management firm. Well, they care about estate planning a lot, or they work at a law firm and you don't know. The woman's just a paralegal. Turns out they do estate planning or they do probate. So I would push back on that and say, until you've talked to them in your database, you don't realize how fertile, how it's hard to help strangers. You have to get their trust, get them to like you. The people who know and like you, all you have to do is show them how you can help them. That's a faster path to success in my book.
Absolutely.
In
I
fact,
think go ahead.
I'm literally, as we speak, now this is going to blow away every realtor on this call. Excuse me, I have bronchitis. Struggling through, and so I'm
Yeah.
drinking water and eating lozenges. I'm literally working on a portfolio of $12 million of listings, and I'm getting ready to have a conference call tomorrow with the attorney and the fiduciary. So a fiduciary is somebody who acts on behalf of the estate. A man died. He had $40 million of property, no probate plan, no estate plan. Actually, he had an estate plan. He never signed it. Has to sell $10 million of property to pay the estate taxes. The attorney is one of my closest friends for the last 25, 30 years. One day he called me up and said, "Hey, Bill, I have this new case and I need somebody who's a fiduciary." I said, "Well, it's funny you say that. My other best friend, that they knew each other, just got his license as a fiduciary. I've been encouraging him to do that. Oh, and by the way, he used to be a property manager. The estate has a property management company." So a lot of realtors would say to me, "Well, Bill, you got lucky, you know these people." No, I bumped into the attorney at court because I go to court every day. But because I was an expert, when I said, "Hey, I know what you need, and here's that solution," all of a sudden I'm the agent of choice for $10 million worth of property at one shot. That people say, "Well, I just fell in your lap." Yeah, well, things fall in your lap when you're prepared to catch them. If you're not ready to catch them, they go through your fingers.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. Well, any parting thoughts that you have for agents to help them out on their way?
Well, I always feel like this is the best time ever to be in the business. There's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of transition, economic uncertainty, political uncertainty. I'm a political historian, and we're living in very unique times that create volatility and stress for customers. In real estate, we have the whole system of contracts being litigated and attacked by our federal government. And yet, customers still need to buy and sell property, and
Yeah.
particularly sell. And so, if you're the calm port in the storm, then, you get to help more people. If you have more people, you get paid more. So I would just really urge everybody. I'm doubling down on my learning. I'm been listening to more training classes on our brokerage activities here in California. Working harder to help my customers. My business is doing great. And so I would just urge everybody to really focus on not finding more business, but being the better agent, and business will find you.
Absolutely. That's great advice. And I think that's what's going to happen in the next couple years of just the agents that know what they're doing and can express their value to people are the ones that are still going to be around. Because I saw in our statistic, well, it really wasn't their statistic, it was someone else that did analysis, like 60 to 80% of the agents they expect to leave in the next year or so. I don't know if
Yeah.
that's really going to happen, but that's a lot of people just kind of saying, "Oh, that's it." But a great opportunity is right in front of us. You just need to learn what you need to learn to be in there and add the most value to people.
I'll add a story if I can.
Sure.
When I was married 38 years in November, the rabbi, and actually wasn't really my rabbi, he was away that weekend. It was like an assistant I never met before. So it wasn't like I was really committed to him spiritually, but he said something that stuck with me all these years. I don't necessarily live it, but I know that's the bullseye I'm supposed to go towards. And it applies to marriage, but it applies to any relationship, particularly business. He said the key to success in marriage is not finding the right partner, it's being the right partner. And that's true in business too, that so many times real estate agents are looking for the right customer who's going to need their service, as opposed to being the right partner the customers come to when they have problems, and then naturally some of them will choose to use you when they need to transact. And so I would just urge everybody to really double down on your efforts to be the right real estate agent for your customers.
Right. Absolutely. Great advice. Well, thank you, Bill. Appreciate getting to talk to you this afternoon. Have a great afternoon.
Thanks so much.